my ear. Sweet nothing.
Those of a certain age, especially in the southeastern United States, can see photos of these 50s and 60s era hamburger drive-in restaurants and almost immediately be transported back to a simpler time. But for Doyle Thomas, that time is never far away. On almost any given day, he may be seen getting into his '62 Resto-Mod Corvette, enjoying the comforts of today's automotive technology, while basking in the reflections of classic design from a half-century ago.
I bought my first Corvette when I was in high school. I pretty much had a Corvette all my life. Haven't not been very many months without a Corvette in my life.
Helping him maintain that record of Corvette ownership has been his decades-long association with the franchised Whataburger chain of restaurants. He started weekends only in high school, keeping the parking lot clean. But as the chain grew, management saw a spark in the teenager, and his advancement through the ranks was exceptional.
So they right away made me a manager of one of those stores, and 6 months later they made me supervisor over 3 of the stores, and then a few years later, had the opportunity to buy part of it.
The part that he bought was well managed by Doyle Thomas, so much so that now he owns outright 14 Whataburger restaurants in East Texas. And that has also enabled him to own a breathtaking and expansive collection of Corvettes and other classic cars on acreage behind his and his wife's residence. Even the simple act of pulling his Corvette into the garage after a drive is like stepping into an automotive fantasy land. With more than 40 cars in the collection at present, they represent the diversity of Doyle's interests.
My first car was a 1951 Ford.
And how many middle-aged collectors can make this claim? He still owns that first car. The collection also includes several hot rods, a group of classic Woodies, no termites allowed, a number of other 50s and 60s cars of interest from his youth, and sitting quietly under a Ford neon sign is a raring-to-go GT. But when first entering the garage, it's obvious the owner's heart is most warmed by the presence of a room full of Corvettes.
I think really it all started with the series, the Route 66 series on TV, seeing the guys travel across country in a Corvette and just hang out. I thought was really cool. My favorite's the mid-year Corvettes by far, and I think this probably goes back to the split window Corvette in '63.
Not surprisingly, he has one of those as well. It's a 327 340 4-speed with just 20,000 miles, and he's owned it twice. Years after selling it, he was at a family reunion and discovered that somewhere along the way, a distant relative had purchased it earlier in its history. Doyle bought it for the collection for the second, and he hopes last time. But Doyle Thomas is not just enchanted by Corvette's history. He's recently taken delivery on a new C7 and is quick with a positive review.
I don't know where to start. I love the lines. It's truly a huge step for Corvette from anything we've had in the past.
As impressive as the cars is the decor. Several different service station brand fronts are duplicated, and in every direction there are highly collectible petroleum pumps, neons, and miscellaneous items that were staples of full service stations in the past. And virtually without exception, there are no knockoffs here.
95% of everything is totally original. It may have been restored, but it's all original stuff.
At what point did you consciously decide to start a Corvette collection?
I don't know that that was ever my long-term goal. It's just that I fell in love with each Corvette. It's had a little personality, and I fell in love with the personality of each individual Corvette. So, kind of like children, just couldn't turn them loose.
All the vehicles in the collection are constantly maintained, started up, and occasionally driven by Doyle and 2 full-time mechanics. Like most Corvette enthusiasts, Doyle knows GM Corvette produced 5 original Grand Sports in '63. Now, he doesn't have one, but he does have a small collection of rare spare parts for those Grand Sports.
This has been a collection that was been in West Texas since the early '60s. A friend of mine bought it. He owned it for 20 plus years, and I have probably owned it for about 20 years.
Finally, it's stating the obvious to say Doyle's garage is beautifully full. So, is it time for additional space? Well, what do you think?
Yes, we do have a garage planned. It's going to be at the house. It's going to be for my daily drivers, which will be Corvettes.
Our thanks to Doyle Thomas for opening up his remarkable collection of Corvettes, classic cars, and petroleum-related memorabilia. And what fun to think that each of these amazing vehicles came to Doyle as pages of automotive history, one delicious cheeseburger at a time.
And yes, we did get this. This is hamburgers, a lot of combo meals.
Stay with us now. Corvette Nation continues in just a moment.